Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing really well as I will be speaking about the topic of Notre Dame burning today. I am reacting to this event very quickly because I usually wouldn't make videos about these types of topics because I stay away generally from things that are happening on the world scale, because ultimately I am impartial about those things, and that is just a disclaimer for this video. I am impartial politically about these events. But I was waking up this morning, it was a normal day. I walked out into the living room and I was stricken by that sight on the TV screen of Notre Dame in full flame burning, and as the spire was falling off. And of course, as an individual, not even a psychic individual, I was processing that and understanding what was going on. And I proceeded to go about my day. I had some appointments, I had things that I had to get done, and I kept glancing down at my phone on Twitter and seeing more and more of what was happening here. And as I was driving, actually, I received a huge psychic download about what was going on with Notre Dame in Paris and in France. And I'm going to be using this very impromptu video recorded on my smartphone and then of course edited on my computer, but I'm recording the audio here just randomly. I have a few charts in front of me. I want to get out the insights that are coming up and that have really implanted themselves within me, because I feel like the information is poignant for everyone, because I feel that this is a collective turning of events. I feel that this event marks a change and marks a shift in paradigm, actually, for many of us and the stage at large that we are operating on. And the majority of this video is going to actually be dedicated towards looking at the charts and looking at the planetary involvement and sort of summing up what has contributed to this potentially cycle of devastating events that are starting. But first, I just wanted to bring to you some of the channeled insights that I received immediately as I was driving. And the first thing that I heard was the word unmentionable. Something about this event happening in Paris, happening at Notre Dame, has an unmentionable energy about it. So I feel that we will never know exactly what went into it. I feel that the tracks have already been covered and that certain scapegoats may already be aligned to take the fault for this. I do feel very clearly that this was not an accident. I feel very clearly that this was purposeful. I also feel that this is a distraction. There is something about this that distracts the eye's vision. There's something about this that is meant to bring something else to the peripheral as well. This is something that is very bright and something that also has a lot to do with identity, with the identity of a nation or the identity of who a certain amount of people are. This has an element of burning an identity or burning a what I'm seeing is signs. I'm seeing road signs. Like if you were on an interstate, at least this is how it is in the United States, you have like the bridges and there are these signs that like direct you into certain lanes of traffic depending on where you're trying to go. And I feel this to be the removal of a sign. I feel this to be a removal of a landmark. And of course that is what it is. It is a building burning. But I feel this to scatter people who are trying to go a certain direction. I feel this to be a purposeful, tactful need to scatter a direction or to have a lot of people not really knowing where the point B is. So that's just, again, these are very mediumistic, channeled insights that do not really reflect anything that's happening in the real world, but they bring symbols and they act as symbols toward the event. So that is the thing that I see most strongly relating to the burning of Notre Dame, is the removal of a road sign, the removal of something that was meant to direct a large amount of people. So what I could feel from this is that potentially this is meant to be a signal. I feel this to be a signal fire, actually, and I feel this to be something that is alerting a certain group of people to move into action somewhere else. I feel this to be the same energy also as a fire alarm. I'm seeing a fire alarm in a school building, actually. So I'm thinking that there is a group of people being taught something by this event, and being directed and managed as this signal flares, and then this is what begins a new process. So I know this is kind of crazy sounding. It is a little bit crazy to think of that this event could be more of a signal than a disaster, but that's what I feel it as. I'm actually I'm hearing this is not a disaster, this is a signal, okay? And my conscious mind, my personal individual mind says that this is a disaster, but I'm hearing that it is actually a signal. Okay, so I feel that this to be a signal towards the French people. I feel this to be a signal towards also the whoever is in charge of this, whoever is in charge of I don't know, the geography or the landmarks of these very powerful capitals. Okay, I feel it to be also something that is just very sad as well. This is something that evokes sadness, and this is something that's meant to evoke an emotional response at a higher level, beyond, regardless of whether this was a freak accident, regardless of whether this was something not a freak accident. I'm hearing that that's not actually what it's about. The higher idea of this, or the higher moral behind this story, is the evocation of a certain reaction from a group of people who were reactionless for a long time, is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that this is not cathartic. This is not a cathartic event. This is an antonym towards the catharsis of what this event might have even been meant to be. Okay? Complicated language, I know. But I'm feeling that this inspires a reaction in people who see it, and it makes people think about something new. So this is it's like a deviating energy as well. And this is triggering the images of the road signs again. We're deviating off onto other streets. We're deviating off as we realize we don't really know where we're going. So there's something about this that shocks things into placement, shocks things into alignment. As there is a historical reference here as well, historically, of course, Notre Dame is a very old type of structure, right? I mean, I believe that it was completed in the 1200s, so this is nearly a 1,000-year-old structure. So it comprises, and this is the nature of architecture and the nature of things created by humans that remain for long periods of time. They comprise multiple paradigms, and they begin to represent, 50, 60, 100 different paradigms within themselves. So when you see the destruction of something ancient like this, it is a blanketing of the canvas, one might say, of that general geographic area. So there is a ritualistic component to it. I feel that there is an attempt to blanken the canvas of this area. I feel that there is an attempt to reset the identity through this. And again, that's nothing about whether or not this was a freak accident that happened, or whether or not this was something that was like arson or something. I don't know. And I'm not making any statement on whether that was or wasn't the case. I don't feel that to be the most important point of this. I feel that there's a forced shift in identity. And I feel like that may depend on whether or not it was a freak accident, or whether it was actually, started by somebody. If I can be honest, I feel like what I'm hearing is coincidences don't exist. I don't know what that means to the situation, but whether or not this is a natural reset of an identity or a forced reset of an identity, that's not something that's really making itself apparent right now, and I'm not going to draw a conclusion on that. Okay, what are we feeling? I'm just going to breathe through this. There are still some more images coming up about this. Okay, I'm seeing that we're not attracted or attached to forms of idolatry, is what I'm hearing, actually. And it's like, again, the wanting to, I see someone like throwing rosary beads is what I see. I see someone turning their back and like becoming indifferent. I also see, because of course France was a monarchy once upon a time. I see curtsies toward Notre Dame. I see bows toward Notre Dame, and I see the curtsy, the bow, and then the turning of the back away from it, which is odd to me. I see that there's a well understanding that it's leaving. Okay, so we're greeting it, and there's a formal greeting of its departure. So this does say to me that this perhaps was anticipated. Okay, that we were prepared. We dressed for this event. We went out and we curtsied to this event, is what I'm hearing. Again, I'm not sure what that means or how that relates to this situation. All that I'm hearing is that it's very connected into the resetting of an identity, and that is connected into also the stripping of an identity as well, is what I'm hearing. And that what this brings is quite tragic as well to some people. I feel that it is a division. I feel a strong division within this, and that the circulation, again, I'm seeing traffic. I keep seeing traffic images, and that's an interesting thing because I don't see those images often when I channel. It's like the traffic gets divided. It's like, again, there's not a very clear idea of where we're going. There's not a very clear idea. We're lost. Okay, so I'm seeing something lost about this, and I'm also, again, it's very sad. It's like there's something that towers and something that was very strong about this structure, and it feels that it could not have burned easily, is what I'm hearing. It feels that it was difficult to make it burn in the way that it did, and there's a sense of loss and a sense of something that was very strong suddenly being overtaken by disease. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing disease. I'm not even hearing fire. I'm hearing that it's like a disease. So perhaps there was something within the building that was very dirty or very ill that wanted to be removed. I'm sensing that as well. Okay, that's a spiritual implication. I'm sensing that the energy within the structure um kind of hit the self-destruct button is also what I'm seeing. That there was something quite ill or quite diseased. I'm not thinking that it's like physical bacteria or virus. I mean, it could be, who knows? But I'm just feeling that the energy within not only was built for it, but was like, and I'm rambling a little bit here because the images are getting quite scattered. All that I know is that this removes a road sign. That's the main symbol that comes forward, and it causes traffic to deviate in sort of unknown directions. Okay, so a control mechanism is removed by this in many different areas, and it's like an unanticipated removing of control that perhaps spurs more types of desires for catharsis. All right. Okay, everyone, so I'm going to leave that there for the intuitive channeling. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and move into looking at the charts of Paris. I'm looking at the progressions, the progression chart, the natal chart, and the transit chart, and see what I think more just outside of my own intuitive channeling. Okay, I'm just going to take a second to get that pulled up here. Thank you guys for bearing with me. I'm not editing the audio of this video. Again, I'm going to put the images over, but I'm just, again, recording this on my phone because I was not prepared to do a video like this. So looking at France's natal chart, I'm just looking at this. I'm bringing this, and I haven't pre-studied this. I immediately look towards the Saturn and Sagittarius in the 9th house. To me, this says a very low chance of unexpected things happening like this. Okay, so Saturn in the 9th house would structure the geography of a land. It would structure, because the 9th house is also religion as well, higher understanding, higher learning. So to put Saturn there really keeps that structured. Okay. To me, this also looks like a land that would have beautiful religious architecture as well. And to me, this says also that an event like this could be extremely damaging. The loss of control, the loss of a structure that is religious or that is harrowing. I also see the Eiffel Tower as well with Saturn in the 9th house. If you see the Sagittarius symbol, it kind of looks like the Eiffel Tower. It kind of looks like Notre Dame, doesn't it? And Saturn, high up in the chart, creates a very tall person or a very tall, powerful persona. So it, to me, feels like something like this couldn't happen by accident. And that's just what I'm going to say. Again, I'm not going to make a statement on whether or not that's true, but I feel it to be unlikely. And if it did happen accidentally, it feels like there would have just been better things in line to put out a fire. I feel Saturn in the 9th house to be very good, again, with fire alarms, like the plan of evacuation, the plan of escaping, the plan of keeping things maintained is very well in France. France has, what I can tell by this nation's chart, has an incredible ability of evacuation plans, of keeping things in order, keeping things sanitary, keeping people's minds sanitary or clean as well, and keeping things in order, and just, it has a strong ability here. And again, I'm not going to make any statements because I know that might even contradict the current state of events there, but I'm just saying that natally, France has an incredible ability to control its structures, its geography, its landmarks, its people. It has a very good ability here. And it's not bad either. It's not something that is malevolent there. It just has that capability, whether or not it chooses to use it. I'm also looking towards Chiron in the 11th house as well. Chiron retrograde in Aquarius in the 11th house. To me, this says religious crime as well, because the 11th house is society, it is people, it is values and norms, and to put Chiron there damages our values, morals, norms, and to send it retrograde makes us look back at the past. So we're implanting our past ideals of damaged morals onto the present. So there's an inability to let go. I see within France, within the systems within France, it's difficult for the past pain or the past societal damage to be let go of. So I feel grudges to be carried over. I feel people to be also quite active. That Mars in the second house in Gemini, it's easy to spend on these types of things. It's easy to upkeep these types of things. There's a temperamentalness about it as well. There's a temper within these French systems that I'm just looking here. I'm looking at it. Moon in the fourth house as well in Cancer. That's really wonderful. No wonder France is so beautiful. I see a lot of things here that create a very beautiful terrain, a very beautiful energy. All right. And I sense also that emotional events like this will be exponential, concentrated. I feel that the people of France will be much more affected by this than perhaps even another countries would. I feel that the sadness in reaction to this will make things unpredictable. And I also feel that people may be encouraged to keep it down, but there may be an overflowing of emotions about this event. Uranus in the fifth house, Pluto in the fifth house, sixth house Libra stellium. I don't feel it to be connected to this event so much. Although sometimes with Uranus and Pluto in the fifth house, it can create sociopathy, even psychosis as well. It can bring too much deep energy and pain energy into the house of fun. So like things like this can be seen as a carnival. Perhaps there is a collective hysteria that starts from this, and people perhaps are laughing in the crowds as they watch it burn. I do see that. Or some people are going to be viewing this event as a sideshow, perhaps around the world. Perhaps there's a desensitization with that energy as well. And perhaps people, it feels quite equally divided. Again, there's that division word again. Some people are going to be very emotional about it, and some people are going to take more of a sideshow seat within this, okay? But ultimately, I'm not seeing what I need to see here in this chart. So I want to move over to the progression chart of France because in countries, at least in astrocartography, in geographical astrology, sometimes the progressions can be even more accurate because these are old nations. These are, a lot of time has passed, so the progressions can be very interesting. Okay, yes, this is evoking more of the mood, actually, as I'm looking at this. Give me a moment just to absorb it. Okay, I'm just looking here. France transits and progressions. Okay. So yes, as you can see, this is exactly it, actually, right here. Look towards the 8th and 9th house. You have Saturn, Mercury, Venus, and Sun. Venus and Sun in the end of the 8th house in Sagittarius, Saturn and Mercury in the 9th house. Okay, whenever you see a Sagittarius stellium within a nation's chart, this can increase the possibilities toward terrorism, religious conflict, covert religious experiences, attacks on religious institutes, when the nation is not functioning well. Okay, when the nation is functioning well, this type of stellium will provoke incredible art. It will provoke incredible academic institutions, religious flexibility, I want to say, and just a good moral compass as well, good morality from all sectors when that is working well. But as you can see, Jupiter is transiting over this. The outer layer is the transit, the middle layer is the progression, the inner layer of this chart is the natal chart without progressions. So Jupiter is transiting over this progressed Sagittarius stellium in the 8th and 9th house. And to me that says covert religious issue, is what I want to say. Covert religious issue. The 8th house is the house of covert things, hidden things, secrets. What was inside Notre Dame is what I'm wondering with that. And then the 9th house is, of course, the ability towards dogma as well. And Chiron stands alone again and sort of indicates to me that it is out in the open, and these past pains can be out in the open. There is also, what do I want to go to next here? I would like to note the 10th house of Pluto and Saturn opposing France's natal moon. To me, this says extreme emotional uprooting. This says dark night of the soul. This says the existential crisis of a nation. Also an accident indication as well whenever Pluto opposes the moon, for sure. As Uranus also slowly begins to approach Mars and it's still quite out of orb. Again, that's coming from the first house. Uranus begins to approach Mars. So that says to me the perhaps beginning of a chapter of accident indications. Okay. But I am interested in the jutting red lines that go up toward the 10th house. To me, that resembles the spire. It resembles the spire of Notre Dame. It resembles also with the 8th and ninth house almost pulling it down. And you see it kind of tumbles off into the 6th house, actually, where the current moon is transiting when this happens. So it mimics the falling of the spire within the chart. I would like to note that for sure. That is interesting because the 10th house is also your what you're known for, your platform, your prestige, and your strongest sense of open structure. Okay, very much indicative of Notre Dame in Capricorn. And of course, that's the transiting Saturn and Pluto up in the 10th house of France, opposing the 4th house moon. So this falling of this towering structure reverberates to the inner core of the French people and of France. Okay, I would like to note that. Again, I'm looking towards that 8th and ninth house. That's what pulls my attention. The progressed sun has moved into the 8th house, so all of France's identity is being constrained or hidden, or something that most people are unaware of. Again, to me, this says, and with Venus there as well, that there can come positive things based on this identity change. But there's just something not quite clear about how France identifies itself. And I feel also that if this were a freak accident, it would be because of that. I feel that when the sun is in the 8th house, when Venus is in the 8th house, it hides beautiful things. It hides your energy sources. So things which the French people might identify with, things with which the French people might find their nation's identity in, may not really be able to be visible. So it's like it disappears. Okay, so there is an element of that, and to me that actually supports the possibility of a freak accident and that this fire happened accidentally, but it could lean either way because again, this is also the house of covert systems and the house of black market and the house of things which are nocturnal. Okay, so it could really lean either way. That could also indicate that resetting of identity that we're talking about is purposeful. It could go either way. Again, I make no statement of whether or not it might be. I'm just looking and absorbing more of the chart. That 7th house stellium, I mean, just as a random thing about France, that says to me that says that France is not independent. Okay, and again, I'm not an expert on diplomacy. It's interesting to me, but a Jupiter in the 7th house in Scorpio says to me ties that bind, and says to me debt. It says to me debt towards other people, and to me I would interpret this as debt towards other nations or feeling too constrained by other nations. So I feel that there isn't much independent action, or I feel that there isn't much autonomy within France. So it would be very difficult, if anything covert did happen, to really identify the source of it because there's not much autonomy here. And this is why there is chaos in France, because France has a natal moon in the 4th house, which only finds emotional solace through autonomy and through independence. Okay, yet this progressed and also natal 7th house stellium makes it very easy to lose independence and to be withholden to other people, or to find your security at the leisure of other people, or there's like the perfect word, at the guise of other people. That's not quite it either, but I'm just still looking. Is there anything else I want to mention on? To sum it up, basically, you have a nation that needs autonomy and independence but cannot afford itself that at this point in time, and it has a very strong issue with balancing, what do I want to say, societal happiness or societal contentment with academic and religious matters. And there's a tendency to try to control those things covertly, or for these things to happen unannounced, basically. There's no proclamation that these events move into place. This is not something that people talk about on the streets of Paris. This is not something that the average person would identify. This is something that is beneath the surface and something that exists within the unconscious of the collective. The collective unconscious of France is very, very dark right now. I will say that. I will say that. And they find beauty there. They find art there. They find a sense of connection and identity within that unconscious darkness as well. Venus is there. So I feel art form. Also, foods and tastes of France are very connected into this being kind of dark. And perhaps it has even come to rely on it. Perhaps there is a lot of money on the line. And I'm not even talking about Notre Dame at this point in time. I'm talking about just France in the sense that this is a country that becomes beautiful through covert things, or becomes beautiful through covert might not even necessarily be the right word. It finds its beauty through something that is not always honest or visible. Okay. And to me, this feels to be somewhat, I imagine if we looked at the most of Europe, you would see this, because I feel that intuitively to be connected to that landmass of Europe, of a sense of power and security coming from lack thereof, or coming from a darkness within the unconscious. Okay, because we strive to make that brighter, we strive to make things better, we're scared of that, so we strive away. And it's all of that striving that creates like these incredible architectures and creates this like desire within these European cities. So that is just perhaps a little bit more enlightenment on why this is happening. And perhaps again, bringing it back to the topic of Notre Dame, it might not be the last time we see something like this. And I imagine if there are any French people watching this video, perhaps you might also be aware of things that foreigners are not aware of, about things like this that have been happening. You know, it might not be something so glamorous as an ancient architecture burning, but I imagine that there are metaphors for it, or there are similarities within the way that people act or represent themselves. Again, Chiron in the 11th house, that's what I conclude on in this video, actually. That's that 8th and 9th house, Sag, stellium, and then Chiron in the 11th house. It creates, to have those malefic energies in that sector, I don't want to say it's an omen. I don't want to say it's something terrible, but it does challenge, like, the collective. It challenges the collective, it challenges society, and it challenges what our desires are as well. But I also see incredible staying power here too. You know, this nation will not be, it will be defined by this event, but it will not lose itself within this. And it is also blessed, I feel, with the ability to always find what its true identity is. So there's Sun in the 8th house, an incredible ability towards regeneration. I feel that something beautiful may be put in its place, in the place of Notre Dame, or something like really wonderful will be reconstituted there, or rehabituated are the words that are coming up. Again, language is a weird thing when you're channeling, it all gets translated through. So there's a new type of like habit that forms from this burning, so like people come to visit. And again, I think that this is quite normal. I think that it's the same with you know, like the 9/11 spot in Manhattan, you know, or New York. It is somewhere that people make pilgrimages to. It is somewhere I feel that Catholics will make pilgrimages to as well, and to give homage to. And I will say that the energy is similar to that of like the terrorist attacks of 2001 in the United States. There is a similar energy. It's not quite the same. But it's in that territory. And I think obviously because it's a tower burning. I mean, look at the tower card in the tarot. It's so similar to that vision and that image. And the tower has been coming up for me in my readings. You guys should go check them out on my channel. I do monthly horoscopes. I do monthly tarot readings. You'll see the tower there in some of my previous ones. And I just want to send blessings to the French people, and I want to send prayer as well. So if we might all kind of take a moment here to think of them, as this is, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to give positive messages relating to it. This is extremely crippling to the identity of French people, this experience. And it is something that has to spur some type of transformative gusto there. And I feel that on the larger scale of things, that is why it happened, because the identity feels to have been slipping away quite slowly. And it's like this jolts people awake and jolts them into regaining their own identity as well. This isn't just about the identity of France, but it's the identity of individual people within France. There's something about the energy line that pulls that away right now, and this is hoping to prevent that. I feel it to be a martyrdom on behalf of the tower, actually. I feel it to be a martyrdom on behalf of Notre Dame to martyr itself, which is a very Catholic thought, I think, to martyr itself so that its people may realize what they're losing within and around the world as well, because this is becoming a world event, in this age. We're all challenged to look at this and see, how am I losing my identity within what I'm doing? And is that right? How can I transform and how do I become new without losing the wholeness of my identity? So this all comes back to identity. That's the main keyword of this entire channeling relating to Notre Dame. It is a symbol towards identity and towards how we mobilize as well. There's a mobilization, I feel, within this too. And that's not, don't think of that necessarily even as something militant or something scary. I even see the immune system as well. It's like how our immune systems mobilize, how we get rid of identity, how our immune system almost plays a role in pushing out psychological things as well. It's almost like our psychological immune system at play. And Notre Dame is very connected as a symbol into that process. And I feel many people will start to wake up on behalf of this and realize what they need to do within. Okay? But again, before I got off topic, I just wanted to say, let's take a moment here in silence to send white light and positivity and prayer to the French people, to Paris during this incredulous time. I'm just going to take a moment here. Please join with me if you can. And let's also take a moment to honor what the structure itself represented for so long. Of course, I'm not saying that everything is good relating to that structure. Anything that deals with deep religion can get messy, but it was a beautiful piece of architecture. It was a beautiful, towering, incredible identifier for the land, and it has now died and passed away. So let's take a moment to honor its presence as it was. All right, everyone. And I'm going to go ahead and end the video on this note. Thank you so much for attending my channeling. And keep France and Notre Dame and the architecture and, the events going on there in your hearts and in your prayers if you can. Thank you so much for coming. Check the description box below. Goodbye.